know why I had it in my head you signed for Rangers the next season after, but when I done my research for the interview, there was a full season between that cup final. Obviously, by this point, Rangers are playing in the bottom tier, and there's a lot of transfer speculation linking you with Rangers, and when I read up, linking you with other clubs, but there was also talk of signing a 5-year deal. How early in that season, obviously you would have knew through your agent, whatever, that there was concrete interest from Rangers to sign you at the end of that season?
I knew pretty early on, to be honest. At the end of the sort of 2012 season, after the League Cup final, at the end of that season, I knew there was interest. Obviously, I'd worked with the goalie coach Jim Stewart previously at Kilmarnock, and I knew Ali McCoist anyways. So I knew there was interest that summer, but I still had a year left in my contract. And again, Rangers were signing players and they were paying for players, but they had Neil Alexander there at the time.
Yep.
And I think it was good for me to get another season at Kilmarnock. It was more SPL games for me to play in. But I knew there was that interest, and I always knew I was going to leave Kilmarnock that season because I knew it was my opportunity to go on and try and go to a bigger club and try and get more experience at a better level. But it was great as well because I was in the Scotland setup at that time as well. So everything was going in the right direction for me. And I was speaking to my agent constantly, and it came to January and I knew I could sign a pre-contract. It was the first, I think that was the first January winter break shutdown. I remember I was on holiday actually, and my agent had phoned me, and I was actually sitting trying to get some sun, trying to relax a little bit before this is before I had kids and all that. So I was enjoying myself, and my agent phoned me and he says, "Look, I'm going in to meet Charles Green today to discuss a contract with you." And he phoned me back later that day and he just says, "Look, they've offered you a 4-year deal. This is what they're offered, but we're also going to speak to Burnley as well today." So they went down and spoke to Burnley that day as well. And it was it was interesting. I mean, for me, I was high as I could be because Rangers were interested in me first and foremost. Also had Burnley interested, and it took a sort of a month to get everything ironed out. And I remember I went and signed a pre-contract in February, where sort of quietly, as quiet as it could be anyways. It was meant to be quiet and it was on the back of the paper the next day. But I remember going and meeting my agent in the Asda car park just along from the stadium at Ibrox.
Yep.
Jumped in his car and drove to the front of the stadium, went up the stairs and sat down. It was just Charles Green, my agent, myself and Andrew Dixon, the finance director at the time, and just basically got the contract signed. And it was an unbelievable feeling going away from that day. I'll never forget, to be honest, because I remember sitting in the car and just signing with a club that you've always wanted to play for and dreamed of as a kid. I think I actually probably had a little tear in my eye, to be honest, because I'm quite an emotional person, but it was one of them moments that, you know, I'll never forget, because it was that was a highlight of my career as well, just signing with the club.
Yep. So, see, obviously at the time you signed with Rangers back then, I spoke about this on a podcast the other day. Did you think, looking back now at that point, are you signing then thinking Rangers are going to be back on the top of Scottish football within the next kind of 7-8 years, or did you think it was a much longer process than that?
No, I genuinely thought it was going to be, there was part of the process. I knew I was part of the process. I knew it was going to be probably difficult for me to stay at Rangers long term, but just to get that opportunity, I could never ever turn it down. And to be part of a process that Rangers will never go through again. I know they won't. And that opportunity was too big, but I knew it wasn't going to be a long term. I knew the process would get there. Listen, when I signed, I knew things weren't right. I knew they weren't up the stairs, but that was ultimately out of my hands. Yep. And they were signing for me to be on the football pitch to try and get results. But it was a difficult period for the club. I could tell already when I went in and signed that things weren't right. But I firmly believed they would get there to become right. And no, it was just one of them things that I knew that I was going to be part of the process, and to see them where they are today is unbelievable. But it was always going to happen for me. I always believed it would happen.
Brilliant. So go to 2013 season and you make your debut for Rangers, East Fife, I believe.
Yep.
How was that day for you, finally pulling on the jersey and going out competitively?
It was brilliant, amazing day that was. But it was weird the build up to it. Obviously, I signed and I went in June, started training with the club. But again, we couldn't officially sign because of the transfer ban. So it was a long period. Again, there was a lot of rumours at that time. The club are going back in administration. There's a lot of things wrong up the stairs, and I had signed a contract that wasn't actually active at that time. So I was training with the club we weren't getting wages or anything. We were training the club for sort of 3 months without getting any wages, which is fine because it was a commitment that we had made. But it was also a bit worrying going into that sort of 3 months, and you're hearing all these noises in the background saying, "Look, club could be going into administration again. Things aren't right," and you kind of knew things weren't right at the top as well. Yep. But to finally get to that day, because I remember obviously I was at every game that we played before it, and we were allowed to play a couple of trialists in the games, and then I eventually got my opportunity to play and make my debut, and it was special. It was really special. It was great. I had my family there, and again, another day I'll never forget. It's just great to pull the jersey on in an actual game for Rangers and make your debut, and very, very proud of it.
I know a lot of players keep their kind of team lines or a wee memento of their debut and stuff, but your team lines would have said trialist in goals. That must have been absurd.
It was a little bit, yeah. It was, again, I kept my shirt, so again that's something that I've got, and I think I kept my gloves I wore in that game. That was one of the things I've kind of done through my career. My cup final shirt with Kilmarnock and my gloves, and then my Rangers shirt and my gloves that I wore that day, just as memorabilia to remember in years to come that you managed to get this opportunity. And again, it was through a lot of hard work to build up to get to that day to play for Rangers. And no, it was something that was really special, running out in front of the fans as well at Ibrox. So again, it's something I'll never forget. Still to this day, you go and watch Rangers and you get the hairs on the back of your neck stand up just being in the stadium. It's a real special place, and there's some special people in the club as well.
Yep. So obviously coming from Kilmarnock, you turn up to Auchenhowie for training. Is there I take it there's a massive difference in the standard of kind of your surroundings, coaching, just everything? Is it a massive step up going to that sort of world-class facility?
Yeah, again, it was just, everything was bigger and better. Again, the scrutiny on everything that you'd done was so much more. You were aware of it all the time. You went to a supermarket in Glasgow, you were filling your car up with petrol, and there was somebody there, and you could see them talking about you, or they would come up and talk to you, or they would give you a bit of abuse as well. That happened a lot. So it was one way or the other. But no, it was, when you sign with Rangers, you know you've signed within a week. You know you've signed with Rangers because everything is just so much bigger. More people want to talk to you. More people want to deal with you. Again, it was interesting when I signed with Rangers. I mean, there was like 6 or 7 agents saying, "I can get you a deal with Rangers, and get you a deal with Rangers." But I knew it was already done. But everyone was just trying to jump on it, and it's sometimes a little bit like that when you sign with clubs like Rangers, that everyone just wants to jump on you and be part of what your experience. And I think that's where players, when they go to clubs like Rangers, some can get caught up in it a little bit. But thankfully, I'd probably had the grounding at Kilmarnock that I needed. But it was a phenomenal experience going into Auchenhowie every day. The pitches, the facility, the people, the staff that were there, they were all, everyone. The thing that I noticed biggest about Rangers was every single person, from the cleaners to the chefs to everyone at Auchenhowie, wanted Rangers to win the football match. Everyone was desperate. They were all Rangers fans. They were all Rangers people, and it was a real family environment, and they needed that because it was, as I say, there was tough times going on behind the scenes. There was a lot of noise and a lot of mess up the stairs. But at Auchenhowie, it was kind of like our little family there.
So how did you feel coming from a team where maybe a draw is a good result to coming to Rangers where every game's must win and you've got that pressure? And I notice it myself when I go to Ibrox. If there's not a breakthrough or you're 2-0 up after 20 minutes, the fans can get on the players' back sometimes in that. How did you deal with that kind of pressure?
It was difficult. It was really difficult, and I think anyone that says it's not difficult is just lying. It's a complete change from, as you say, an acceptance at a 1-1 draw, or sometimes even getting beat. If you're playing in Aberdeen at Kilmarnock, sometimes a 1-0 defeat isn't a bad result.
Yep.
But for me, you play anybody, if we were playing Celtic and we were in League One, it wasn't acceptable to get beat. You needed to win. You needed to have that winning mentality, and it got breeded into you. It did. It got. You soon knew that if you didn't have that winning mentality, you wouldn't last. You wouldn't be in the club. You'd be moved out straight away, and the demands there are so high. And it is. I'd say it's more mentally challenging than physically. Every player that signs there has got talent, has got ability, but it's how you handle the situation. It's how you. Can you do it on a Saturday when you've got 40,000? Can you do it on a Saturday when you've got 40,000 people giving you a little bit of stick because their demands are so high?
Yep.
That's a question that Rangers players get asked all the time, still do to this day. And that's the way that it'll always be because they're such a big club. But I think it was difficult to deal with, but I felt as if you soon got into the rhythm where I didn't accept defeat as well. I was in it. If we didn't win the game, then you'd be in the changing room asking questions, saying, why didn't we win that game? And you'd be disappointed. Even some games, I remember we won a game at Ibrox, can't remember who it was against, 2-0. We didn't perform very well. We almost got grumbled off. And that's when you know the expectations are so high at Rangers. And it is, again, being in the lower leagues, I would say it was difficult to deal with as well, because we were expected to beat teams 6-7-0 every week, especially when you do that once or twice. The expectations there, well, why are we not doing that every week? But it's even to this day, for Rangers, if they play an East Fife in the Cup or somebody like that in the Cup, they're difficult games. Difficult games to break teams down, because they normally just sit in, make it really hard. And again, it's one of these expectations you just need to deal with at a big club, though.